This is a JTP audio podcast.
Sometimes talking with friends feels like role-playing. Sometimes it feels like combat. Join us at the round table and roll initiative. This is Curmudgeons and Dragons. All right, hello and welcome. Episode 2 of Curmudgeons and Dragons. How you guys doing?
You know,
delightful.
Not terrible, I'll tell you what.
Well, that's just great. It's good when things are good. Welcome back to the round table. This is Jason. Who else we got?
Jack's over here hanging out with the cat.
Ahoy, this is Josie.
Justin.
All right.
Are you sure?
Is here.
He had to find himself.
Is present.
He did an investigation check and he found himself. So on the table for today's episode, we wanted to build some characters together. So we got a few different takes. Today we're going to do Wolverine or Logan, depending on which movie you watch.
Moody boy.
You guys got your Wolverines ready?
Yeah, or James. Yeah, depending on what era we're
depending
doing.
on how far back in the comics.
What if I just named him Mr. Angie Man?
Oh, he is pretty angry.
Go Pokeboy.
Mm-hmm.
Just little
All
Mr. Stabby Man.
He is a little dude. Like Josie,
He's
you were
my
just,
height. We're the same size. I'm
4 foot
tall
nothing?
enough. Fuck you. I'm tall enough to be Wolverine. Wolverine is 5'3", and with the adamantium, he is 300 pounds.
Oh, I gave him a little bit of height. I was being generous.
I thought he was shorter than that, actually. I thought he was 5 foot flat.
I thought he was taller. I was clocking him. So the way I want to do it was I didn't really want to look at him as a person, and I haven't really remembered the comics in a while. So I just went off of like what I thought it was, like when you get your mom to name Pokemon kind of thing.
All right.
I knew absolutely nothing, I realized, about Wolverine other than he's got a nice costume and he's got little stabbies on his hands that come out
He's
of
got
his
a lot of
like,
nice costumes.
I knew very base information. I've never seen one of the Wolverine movies. I don't know if I've seen X-Men. I don't think I've seen X-Men. I'm actually like a little bit more of a DC gal.
Oh boy.
All right.
I know,
We'll do some DC
some
next time.
sins can't be forgiven.
So
for that one.
there's 3 X-Men movies, a couple of X-Men movies after that. Then there's 3 Wolverine movies. There's 2 of them you should stay far away from, and then one you absolutely need to watch.
Hey man,
If it has Wolverine in the title, skip it. But
Okay.
go
No,
watch
the
Logan.
Wolverine was all right.
The Wolverine's okay.
I don't know. Go watch
Better
Logan,
than
though.
Origins.
Yeah.
Go watch
I heard
Logan. It's
Wolverine's
fantastic.
good.
You know, it's like people say don't watch 1, 2, and 3, but you're gonna go back and watch the prequels. They're not terrible. They're all right.
I mean, go watch them, but
It gives
Yeah, at
you
least watch it once.
definitely watch
movie
watch
canon.
Logan twice to make up for it.
That's fair.
Like, there's apparently a lot of stuff in Wolverine's lore that, like, yeah, everything is canon because this is a multiverse, and he just something. I tried so hard to read so much in such a short period of time.
The word canon in any kind of comic universe is so fuzzy.
Because they can do
Well,
whatever they want now.
Yeah,
They kill people and bring them back and retcon and just change things, and it's just like there's all
Superman
sorts of
ruined
things.
comics for me.
So these are all, no matter what version of Wolverine it is, these are all the canonical versions of Wolverine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they say if you say something's true and enough people believe that it's true, it's true.
It's like
You
the
say
internet.
something-
Nothing's wrong on the internet.
Yeah, if you say
Exactly.
something's true and then you make a comic about it, it's
oh my
it's
god.
canon.
So
Yeah,
wait,
if
that
it's on the
Nigerian
internet, there's
prince
porn
really
about it.
wants to pay for my college?
Yes, and there's hot singles in my area.
Of course there
Mhm.
are. I'm in your area.
And all it takes is one pill.
And this game
Right.
will make you come in 5 seconds.
We've all been on the same websites.
Yep, some has browsers, some has talent.
Mm-hmm.
Let's roll up, see who's going to do their character.
Why are you
first.
outing me, Jason?
No, he said talent.
Yeah.
You're just such a pretty boy.
I'm rolling a d20. I don't know about you guys.
Okay.
I'll roll a d20.
I'll roll a digital D20 on
That's what I got.
dndbeyond.com.
That's
got
what I'm
that.
doing.
I got that 8.
Well, I'm doing mine on google.com.
Oh.
I'm
I
doing
got
mine.
I got the
on my
d20 app on my
desk.
stream deck here.
I got an 18.
So wait, am I the only one that brought a real die?
I have 1,000 of them, but
I mean, they're right here.
Mine are in the other room.
I also have a computer in front of me.
That's true.
I didn't
I
install
just-
the d20 app on the stream deck.
I
for
have
nothing.
like all of my notes on Wolverine handwritten. Like I'm an analog gal.
Nerd.
Oh my goodness.
I know, I'm sorry.
Nerds!
I have a binder with all of my stuff.
Quit being such a nerd and tell me about your X-Men character in D&D.
No, I don't want to go first. I got an 8.
I think I might
I got
go
a
first.
7.
I got a 5.
I got an
5.
18.
Jack's 18. Big Jack is going first.
2 for
Jack,
2.
Tell me about your Wolverine build.
All right, so I liked the idea of pre-adamantium Wolverine. Like right after he was like, "What are these things coming out of my hands?" And they were just bones.
Yeah, back when they were straight up bones.
Just bones, man. So
The claws were always there.
They were always there, but I made him a half orc, and I just rolled him as a level 10, so he's a male half orc, and I made him a monk because I kind of like the idea of Wolverine, having unarmed strikes, and I just made like slight adjustments to it. So I put in a lot of like
I made a lot
classic
of sense.
D&D stuff with a little homebrew spin on it. I just feel like the unarmed strikes were the best way to characterize him pre-adamantium with not giving him too many bonuses. Because for the most part, he's punching you, but he's just punching you with bones in his hand, so he's still going to feel those a lot more than the adamantium. So I also liked Hairforks a lot because of their relentless endurance. I kind of, like Wolverine can't die, kind of. So relentless endurance was a good D&D way of saying, when you're reduced to 0 HP but not killed, you can pop back up at 1 every long rest. So it kind of gives them that like I can't die kind of thing. So for my stats, I rolled 20 on strength, 13 on dex, 15 on con, 10 on intelligence, 11 on wisdom, and a 6 on charisma. The way I kind of built him out was a strong, agile fighter, kind of like how he is normally. I kind of didn't give as much to intelligence and wisdom. I might have switched my dex score with that, just because I kind of like the idea that Wolverine is quiet, but he's not a dumb person. He might not have like a ton of common sense when he's running in, but he for sure isn't a dumb person. I gave him proficiencies in acrobatics, athletics, intimidation, investigation, and survival. I mean, for classic things, I just, weapon wise, I just gave him unarmed strikes. So his hit DC is 9 and his damage is, I gave him 2d6 plus 5, just because when you're starting at level 10, your unarmed strike is only 1d6 plus 5. So I threw an extra d6 of just like, hey, I'm punching with my bones kind of stuff. Because I'd have to imagine they're your bones and it's going to hurt, but it's still going to hurt like hell to the other person if you're getting punched with a sharp bone. I also gave him,
yeah.
And there are weapons that are made
also
out
kind
of
of-
bone, too.
Yeah, like it's going to hurt. But I kind of threw in there too that every time he makes a unarmed strike, he takes -1 HP. Just because in the beginning, like when he feels that, like when he's using them, like you can tell that he feels them. So I kind of like the idea of having a drawback to using them, just because you're going to feel it if you're punching someone with your bones. Throughout leveling, so you're level 10, so you can pick either feat proficiency. So I did 1 in proficiencies and just gave him the acrobatics and athletics, and the feat that I chose was grappling because I kind of like him as a close combat fighter, so I gave him grappling for that. When you pick orc, you also have like stillness of mind as a monk, and unarmed strikes and wholeness of body. So I can regain automatic HP every time I rest, which is kind of like him, taking a breather, regaining like his strength and stuff like that. Stillness of mind is you can use an action to end an effect on yourself that's causing you to be charmed or frightened. I kind of feel like Wolverine was always like a big, kind of like you can't be intimidated by things kind of person. Like he's not, I've never known Wolverine to really run away from a fight.
No, you should run
like,
face first into a fight.
Usually, yeah. Usually he's like, hey, I'm going to break this fall with my face. As a monk, you also get flurry of blows, so I can make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action because when he's in there, he's just slashing, just hacking and slashing away. For languages, I just thought it was like a cool idea just to give him. So he's common, Dwarvish, and Orc, obviously being half Orc. Dwarvish was the language I chose, and I also chose Deep Speech because I kind of like the idea of Wolverine as like sort of like an alien entity, like because he's a mutant. So you got to think mutants are kind of like these alien entities. So it's kind of like a mutant speech, you'd call it. Deep speech is usually like an alien or otherworldly being that you can talk to. And I kind of like mutants having that language as like their language. And that's pretty much my guy. I didn't really like concentrate too much on equipment or stuff like that. I did give him a few features and traits that I kind of, enjoyed. His monastic tradition, I went just way of the open hand. I know in Critical Role, there's the way of the Cobalt. That's more of like a kind of like magic-y thing. And I just really always pictured Wolverine as like a hand-to-hand kind of dude. So, way of the open hand just gives you like deflects missiles and open hand technique, which is basically something you can do on flurry or blow. So just more of him just being in close, punching, hacking, and slashing. He gets extra strikes and extra attacks being a monk. For racial traits, as a half-orc, you get dark vision, and that's kind of fitting for him, being like kind of that animal, like in the darkness.
Definitely.
I gave him menacing, so you get a proficiency in the intimidation skill, because I feel like he, out of all the mutants, he's kind of relies on that, just being like, hey, I'm going to murder you and you can't murder me. So that's a pretty intimidating thing to me.
Naturally.
The other thing I like too is So kind of rolling into pre-adamantium and adamantium. Half-Orc Monk gets a thing called Savage Attack. So when I score a critical hit roll, one of the dice an additional time I can add extra damage. So I kind of like the idea of like he's starting to learn how to use his claw. So every time he becomes more proficient or scores like a critical hit, he's adding more damage to it. So he's becoming more proficient with using those things. Yeah. For his description, just real quick for background, I gave him the Haunted One background. So a quick description of that is those who look in your eyes can see that you have faced unimaginable horror and that you are no stranger to darkness. That they might fear you, commoners will extend you every courtesy and do their utmost to help you. Unless you have shown yourself to be a danger to them, they will even take up arms and fight alongside you should you find yourself facing the enemy alone. And I feel like that worked out really well for him because it kind of shows like, hey, he's been through some shit, but at the same time, like people are still willing to fight next to him because they realize how like staunch of a person he is. So the Haunted One kind of fit pretty well. And I gave him chaotic neutral. I mean, as Wolverine, he kind of just does whatever he wants, whatever he thinks is best. Doesn't really listen to things too well. I put him as obviously male. I gave him yellow eyes just because I was looking at my cat when I made it. I thought it'd be cooler if he had yellow eyes rather than his normal eye color. Medium size, rugged skin. I put him at 30 for this. I put him weighing about 200 pounds. And I gave his height 5'10". So I was a little generous with the small boy height. I made him more of an average boy height.
That's very generous.
Yeah, I gave him an extra 7 inches, and that's a lot of inches. You know, that's a big difference. Personality traits, real quick. I just went through. Rather than write stuff down, I kind of like the idea of seeing what was given to me and just seeing how well I could actually make D&D traits fit Wolverine, rather than like handwriting them in. So personality traits, I gave. I don't run from evil. Evil runs from me. I live for the thrill of the hunt. I don't talk about the thing that torments me. I'd rather not burden any others with my curse. And I expect danger around every corner. For his ideals, I gave him, I have a dark calling that puts me above the law, which is a chaotic calling. And then I gave him, I'm a monster that destroys other monsters and anything that gets in my way, which in D&D is an evil. But I kind of put that more as like, if you're leaning towards like chaotic neutral, because I get that's evil. Like you think you're a monster and you destroy everything, but
yeah, those are guidelines.
It just seems like, it's just such like a far swing for evil. Bonds, I gave him, my torment drove away the person I love. I strive to win back the love I've lost, which is pretty true to the Wolverine lore. His wife. And then flaws are I feel no compassion for the dead. They're the lucky ones. And I have an addiction. So flaws I kind of looked at later on in life where, you know, as he kind of aged and was getting like outliving people and living with his pain and stuff, he kind of almost in a weird way always wished death upon himself. I mean, you can get that towards like the end of his, you know, line of when he finally goes, like you could definitely tell he was like, I'm okay with going just after all he's been through. And the addiction is, you know, he's Wolverine. He smokes cigars, he drinks booze, he does whatever he wants. So he's just kind of like the Wolverine-y thing.
You can't die. You might as well smoke and drink.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm going to die and I do that. But I mean, that's kind of like what I built him out as. I like I said, I used D&D Beyond. And rather than like, I put in like some homebrew stuff just because the unarmed strike I felt like is a little underpowered for what Wolverine was. So I just gave him an extra bump on damage. But I wanted to use D&D Beyond and the actual D&D 5e stuff and some of the extraneous stuff as much as I could to truly build like a Wolverine character. So I didn't want to like dip too much into homebrew. I had other ideas for things that were more like homebrewy kind of stuff. Like if I was leaning more towards like the adamantium and things like that, but I felt like Half-Orc Monk just kind of fit him best as, you know, pre-adamantium.
Yeah, it's a totally playable character too.
Yeah. So
like,
it's saved on my D&D Beyond, so I'll make sure to share it when we're done.
Yeah. I like how you basically took like his whole story. Like you went from the bone claws to all the way to like later on years when he's like, you know, reflecting on things and gets a drinking problem.
Yeah, I think if you're going to build out the lore of your character, I mean, I could have gone like pre-stuff, but in my opinion, pre-stuff for Wolverine is exciting, but it's not as exciting. It's kind of a classic, like, I was a tough guy, now I'm a tougher guy. But he really matured as a character later on in the series, so I wanted to focus on that as well.
Going Monk gives you some cool stuff too that not only is decent for playing him, but to really flesh out the flavor of Wolverine. Also, you get the unarmored movement, so he gets to stay fast because he doesn't typically wear armor. Like the most you'll see him wear is like, you know, leather biker jacket, which usually leather, comes off. Yeah. But I wouldn't even call that armor.
Well, if I was doing like during adamantium, I would have given him kind of armor because he would have had that coursing through him for his bones. But since I went pre-adamantium, that's why I went like more of like the Monk build with that.
Monk also has unarmored defense, which gives you an extra AC boost when not wearing armor.
And they get unarmed strike too, which is kind of cool. So I could like punch, kick, headbutt, like, you know, do whatever I want with just my strength modifier +1. So it's like in a pinch, I'm still kind of like my whole body's a weapon.
Yeah. Well, wait, you guys wouldn't consider the yellow and black spandex of the comics as light armor?
I guess it would be light armor, light and tight armor.
Yeah, I don't think he's proficient in tight armor.
Wolverine's proficient in tight armor. I tell you what.
No, I think that build, like Way of the Opium Monk, I think that's definitely one of the more faithful ways to adapt Wolverine.
Totally agree.
As far as like combat style and stuff too into D&D. I think the only thing, like you have a great build there. I think the only thing I would have done differently was as opposed to like homebrewing organic weapons. I mean, it's a monk, so you can reskin anything. So maybe just give him like, 3-pointed punch daggers or something. It can fundamentally deal the same amount of damages as.
I just went from more of a lore standpoint of like he's still using his hands, like he's not really using like a weapon. I thought about giving him like, because there are brewed up like claw weapons and stuff like that, like fist weapons.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like just being able to retract and unattract. Like, so I have 2 unarmed strikes. I have the 1d6 plus 5, which would be his regular unarmed strike, and then the special one that I threw in was 2d6 plus 5. Plus, every time you hit with it, you take -1 hit point. So that kind of was like if the claws are out, like you're still feeling it.
It's a lot
you're getting extra damage. Yeah,
it's a lot of damage, and you're taking the hit from your skin.
Slight drawback.
I think that's pretty balanced homebrew. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I could definitely 2d6 without a drawback is kind of like for an unarmed strike, it's kind of crazy. So that's why I wanted to put the drawback in of like if you're punching with your bones, you're probably going to feel it a little bit.
Yeah, especially if you're getting like at least 3 attacks, even without spending a key point.
Just like the tiniest.
Yeah,
bit.
so if you do like flurry of blows or anything like that, like you're taking like on a turn, you could take like 5 or 6 damage depending on how you roll your turn and hit stuff. I mean,
and that plays into the whole berserker end too. That was a huge name Wolverine, more especially in the video games.
Yeah, that's kind of why I like the idea too of the. So when I went half orc, just getting relentless endurance, it's like you're doing drawbacks to yourself, but you can't really even kill yourself. Like you could still punch if you're at like 1 hit point and bring yourself back up.
Yeah, once.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can't do it this many times. One.
Yeah.
But hey, one's still better than none. Yeah.
And one boss fight might be all you need.
Yeah, tell the boss, hey, hold on, I got a quick long rest. Can you just hang on for a second?
Yeah.
Jack, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Appreciate it.
Who's up next?
I believe it is me.
Josie had an 8.
Hey.
Alrighty. So I was saying, know.
Tell us what you learned about Wolverine.
I learned so much about Wolverine. If you can,
he's a guy.
He's a dude. So, according to the Marvel biography, he's born in the late 19th century. So I put his birth around like 1885. In the movies, I think he's born in 1845. It didn't seem late enough
before the Civil
me.
War.
Yeah.
I think they just did that for that cutscene of him running through with Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you gotta have Wolverine and Sabretooth in Civil War.
Yeah.
Like he was raised by wealthy parents, and then one day the groundskeeper kills his father, so that triggers his like first rage where his mutation manifests, and he kills the groundskeeper, who admits in his final moments that he is his real father.
Oh.
Which, sounds pretty traumatic.
It's not possible.
No.
That's a different episode, guys. We'll do Luke later.
He slashed up the face of Logan's son and his son's friend, Dog, which is a fun name for a person. He got into cage fighting at the quarry, and he got stronger as he got better control over his mutation, but also became more violent and accidentally killed Rose and went and lived in the wood. He went and lived in the woods as a feral beast for a time, which, as you do.
Like you do.
Yeah. Everyone's been there.
But
I'm there right now.
He was described also as a partial amnesiac because of the healing abilities that he has, just kind of like build over that trauma so he doesn't have to remember it. But I built him in a way that, like, even though he doesn't remember his past, he knows it wasn't a great one. So I actually built him as a boring old variant human barbarian fighter, because I kind of focused on the fact that, like, he was in every major conflict of the 20th century. Like, every war that happened, he fought in it. He played whatever he needed, a soldier, a criminal, a mercenary, and said, I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do best isn't very nice. And like that for me really just screams barbarian fighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also did the Haunted One background because, again, like,
it's a good fitting background.
It's that one.
It's almost too obvious, but it's a good one for him.
Yeah, it fits so well.
Thanks,
I had to force myself not to pick that one.
I had him as either a chaotic neutral or true neutral. I think when he ran into the woods to live as a feral beast, he really was a true neutral kind of entity. Like, he doesn't.
For sure.
Yeah. For his barbarian berserker, like he's described as a berserker, but also like I thought that the totem path was a little better, the path of the totem warrior, just because like he has those heightened animal like senses and things. So I have his totem spirits being the bear. While raging, you have resistance to all damage except psychic damage. And then
that's perfect.
And then the aspect of the beast, tiger, you gain proficiency in 2 skills from the following list: athletics, acrobatics, stealth, and survival. I did acrobatics and stealth. I have him as a very constitution and strength heavy. His con is 18, strength 16, dex 14, and then intelligence is 9, wisdom is 13, and charisma is 8. His characteristics and like description and stuff, I had it kind of true to the comic book, like black hair, blue eyes, colored skin. I put him at 130. What?
The classic skin-colored skin.
Well, yes, the skin reminds me of skin.
Can you pass me the skin color crayon, please?
Yeah, well, there's a variety of flesh tones, but it's not like he's blue or green or purple or anything, which are valid skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
He's ambiguous.
Yeah.
He's Canadian white guy.
He's just
Canada.
A generic Canadian dude who also punches real good.
So a Canadian dude.
Yeah.
So
I gave him I gave him the feet
with
tavern
a little
brawler.
less flannel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he spent some time as a logger in some stories. So like I think he wears flannel every once in a while as a treat.
Dexter wears flannel when he's a logger, so
that's fair.
We don't talk about logger Dexter.
Are you sure? That facial hair though. So I gave him.
We don't talk about Tree Dexter.
I gave him Tavern Brawler. I didn't really do any homebrew stuff. I wanted to do something just from like the player's handbook, but I did give his unarmed strike like a +1 piercing. I thought that was like fine.
That's a fair way of adding it, because that's the thing. There's no real like, hey, my bones are weapons roll, so you kind of got to like adjust.
You got to do something with it.
Yeah.
But like, I made him very acrobatic and athletic. I gave him a little up in perception. I gave him a bonus in survival because he did a whole bunch of that. Just like,
I think we all might have.
Anytime it was like, you want to give a bonus in survival? I'm like, yes. I think.
You want to survive better? I guess
it's not very useful in the game, but it's great for flavor.
It makes sense for his character. It makes sense.
Absolutely, it does.
The languages I have him speak are Common, Draconic, Primordial, and Undercommon. I gave him proficiency with carpenter tools, but I learned.
Yeah, it would make sense.
I learned real Wolverine, according to Marvel, has immunity to most poisons, drugs, and diseases. So I gave him natural, like, not immunity, but like resistance.
That's why I rolled a half-orc and a monk.
Well, pin a rose on your nose. I'm sorry.
You're doing great.
I gave him a bunch of language proficiencies because I discovered that he is fluent in Cheyenne, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Lakota, Russian, and Spanish, and knows passably French, Thai, and Vietnamese.
And I guess if you're alive for that long, it's a lot of Rosetta Stone. You could say
he's been alive for like
he lived in
years.
He lived in Japan for a while. He's got a son in Japan. Spoilers.
Oh, there was a whole like huge like Japanese Wolverine arc
about that,
that I completely forgot about and did not address at all in my build.
I believe they're called Tanuki over there.
That's a specific something in there. But I didn't realize that he spent the first 100 years of his life without the adamantium skeleton. Like that wasn't until the 70s or something. So like, that's why he's only got the +1. I did kind of build this pre-adamantium, but with like some stuff about post-adamantium him in mind. That's more, I don't know. I wasn't as interested in that. I think there's a lot to work with post 1970 for Wolverine when it comes to specifically building a D&D character. Like, that's where most of his Haunted Past and stuff is. It addresses a lot of the things that you look to build a character.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you got like 200 years of a guy's life to deal with. I mean,
yeah, it's a lot of time.
And also adapting the adamantium skeleton into a character in D&D in general is, I think it's not hard to make that broken.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like with characters like Wolverine, it's really easy to just make him super OP.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of flaws as a character, though. Like there's
like
ways to balance him.
Like when it
without
comes
going
to
too nuts.
interacting with other groups of people, like that's what the low charisma is for, to be like, yo, like we should work together. And he's just like, nah, I don't do that. You don't want that. I don't want that.
Yep.
I see a New York taxi driver.
It's a Canadian taxi driver.
Or like any
that's
first time player.
Hey, I'm logging here.
I think we're looking at this, from a purely combat stance, which is super easy to do.
Yeah.
But the role play stuff is where he's really going to balance out. Where it's if you're playing him correctly, people aren't going to like him very much. He's supposed to be abrasive and not trust anybody and not like
he's
anybody.
not a fun person to hang out with, really, unless you like to watch a guy chug 6 pints of beer, then break the mug over somebody's head for looking at him funny. Like, if you like that guy,
hottie alert.
yeah, she's like, ooh, hello, sir. Let me sit at your table.
Drunk and angry. Are you my dad? Just kidding. He's doing stuff like that.
So,
a scruffy drunk guy. That's just us.
Yeah, that's 3 out of 4 people in here.
Right.
Me, Jason, Josie.
I was gonna say sorry, Justin.
It's me, the scruffy big.
I'm only one of those right now.
I just want to be
drunk.
Yes, drunk, right?
Listen,
if you're gonna play as Wolverine, you gotta go all the way into Wolverine, okay?
Yeah, I smoked a cigar.
Because it ain't scruffy and it ain't guy.
Yeah, I'm 4 beers deep. I'm Wolverine.
I did not get the memo that we were supposed to be channeling the character as well.
She's not committed
to
role
play, okay? Role play doesn't stop just because you're not playing a game right now.
I have a lovely key lime yogurt.
Okay, Wolverine.
Something Wolverine would never say. So as a barbarian, he's got unarmored defense, reckless attack, danger sense. He can talk to animals, which is a fun little thing. I don't think real Wolverine can do that. That's just a perk.
Yeah, they don't talk back.
No. He just looks at the deer and he's like, fuck you. And they're just like, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, in one of those Wolverine movies that Jason told you not to watch, he actually does have, seemingly a very social, special moment with the dying bear. So seems like he has at least some
what else
affinity
do you
for
do when
hanging
you
out with
see
animals.
a dying
First of all,
bear?
that's a great scene. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then he goes in a bar and just pokes people.
Just a little
Well, he
hand
ever does.
stabby.
Yeah, he just pokes people.
Yeah, bars
goes to the bar.
He's honestly just old school Facebook as a mutant. He's just poking people and you really don't want it.
2011 Facebook.
Oh my God.
Just poking people left and right.
Just
I
poking
repressed
people
all
all the
that.
time.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Somewhere
now the
hidden in
Facebook's
their
just a
interface,
cesspool.
it's all of those. Oh my God. All of those unanswered pokes.
I think you can wave
Facebook
now.
used to just be annoying. Now it's annoying and racist.
Especially if you had your family. It's real great. They're like, love you, but, and I'm like, just stop it, love you.
Yep. See you later.
Don't continue. I'll see you at the next funeral. It's fine.
My Facebook's mostly Mr. Potato Head shit right now.
Yeah.
I think that's everyone's Facebook.
I'm just confused by.
I don't know. That's a different podcast.
What gender is your potato, Jason?
Sneak peek for episode 3. It's an all Mr. Potato Head podcast from here on out.
Oh my
We're
God.
adapting
Mr. Potato Head as a character?
Anybody have stat blocks on Mrs. Potato Head?
Yeah.
I can find some real fast, probably.
Did I
sure
talk
it's on
about
dndbeyond.com.
fighter features at all? I don't think
They're
I
not
did.
sponsoring us. I don't know why you keep doing that.
Because maybe one day they will.
Listen, I tried getting this episode sponsored by D&D Beyond, and they actually got back to me very quickly. They were very nice. They only have one sponsorship program, and it's only open if your name is actually Matt Mercer.
Oh,
I can
that's my name.
change it.
Yeah.
Like,
So
So if I
we can
legally
do
change
that.
my name to Matt Mercer, will they sponsor us?
They might, but unfortunately, right now we don't qualify. However,
Stay
we are
tuned for
going to
that.
tag them in the post, and they'll probably share it around.
Yeah.
And hopefully, they won't listen to the
Yeah,
episode
yeah.
first, and they'll just share it blindly because of
Oh,
that.
yeah. So
sentence
this
we just-
episode is dedicated to Matt Mercer and dndbeyond.com.
Please love me, Matt.
we're not being sponsored. However,
Give me discounts.
no, we haven't even launched a Patreon yet, so I can't even tell people that they can sponsor us because right now they can't. If you want to just like find me and hand me $10, that'd be cool. 'Cause then we can go buy D&D Beyond
Yeah,
books and add them to our account.
That's right. We don't have enough.
I have most of them.
I only have the player's handbook. Oh, thank you. I tried real hard.
I just sent you illegal PDFs. I'm glad you didn't open them. That's
allegedly.
You're going to jail, bro.
I only have the player's handbook on D&D Beyond because that's all I thought I needed.
You too can sponsor a Josie by buying her more stuff on D&D Beyond.
Yes, not just on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, give us your Amazon wish list.
Oh my God, yes. Please buy me nice things. That's all I want.
In the arms
if you buy me nice headphones, I will wear them for you.
There you go.
Josie, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you. I tried.
And thank you for filling in some of the Wolverine history that I was missing because I've not studied.
Yes, of
I've
course.
Not studied him.
I said last time, I think that I'm going to school for writing. I'm also going to school for criminology, so I cannot help but just profile people. It is a curse.
I think I'm up next.
I believe you are.
Here we go.
All right. So we got a couple of overlaps here, but I think we took them in slightly different directions. Again, using D&D Beyond, we're just going to go in order here. I like the order that they have you do this in. So Wolverine is he's a mutant. This is the whole thing with X-Men. So what is a mutant but a variant human? Like on a very literal level is humans with
I'm not the only person
genes.
that made him
human.
Thank you, Webster.
Human. We were talking about putting him into dwarf or even halfling because he is very short and hairy.
Oh, we'll get there.
But I decided to go variant human. It gives us a couple of cool options that'll put us into the right lore. I did have him learn Dwarvish because if he's going to look like a dwarf, he might as well talk like one. And what is a Canadian accent but the Dwarvish language?
Okay.
Yeah, I can get behind that. That makes sense.
Listen, I mean, Tolkien kind of put the idea in our head that dwarves are Scottish, but
that is not what Tolkien intended the dwarves to be. Tolkien came right out and said what the dwarves were, and it was not okay.
No. But now they're Canadians, so it's okay now. We can make fun of them and not feel bad.
Love a Canadian. To all of our Canadian listeners, we love you.
Are you guys aware that I'm actually half Canadian?
Awesome.
Oh, well, the other half's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
That's why you're only half nice all the time.
Fuck you.
It's half Canadian, Canadian, half asshole.
Is the half Canadian Quebecois?
Yes, it is.
Of course. Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. So Variant Human gives you 2 ability score increases. So we gave him an extra point in Constitution and Strength. Gives you a free skill right at the top. So I gave him Acrobatics, and you also start with a feat. I gave him the Slasher feat, which gives you a +1 to Strength or Dex. I gave him a +1 to Dex. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals slashing damage, you can reduce the speed of the target by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. And when you score a critical hit that deals slashing damage to a creature, you grievously wound it. Until the start of your next turn, the target has disadvantage on all attack rolls. The idea here being that you know exactly where to slash to inflict the most damage. And this guy's been slashing for 200 years.
Oh, I know exactly where to slash to deal the most damage.
Yep. So definitely gave him a slasher. I put him on level 9, and I kind of just kept adding levels until I felt he had all the stuff I wanted him to have. I could go level 10 and give him 1 more. But I started with 3 levels of fighter. Not only does that give him a couple extra proficiencies, I gave him a history and intimidation. A guy that's been alive for 200 plus years and fought in the Civil War and every other war. He's got to be a historian because he lived it.
I never really thought about that.
Yeah, and intimidation. He's a guy with claws and a scruffy beard. He's known for being intimidating, so we gave him proficiency there. Fighting style, I gave him 2 weapon fighting, so that when he slashes with both hands, he doesn't get disadvantage, or he keeps his modifier rather. The most important thing here is that level 1 fighter, you get second wind. Once per turn, you can use a bonus action to heal 1d10 plus your fighter level. This is the closest I found to true regeneration in this game. Is the second wind ability. A lot of resiliences, and we'll get to that in the Barbarian. But this is the closest I found to actual regeneration. So it was important to me that he had second wind.
It works, yeah.
Second level gives you action surge, so you can take additional action once per short and long rest. And for the martial archetype on level 3, I gave him the champion.
Classic.
Because that gives him the improved critical. Now he crits on 19 or 20, so he goes from a 5% to a 10% chance of crit, which seems very fitting. So that's the 3 levels of fighter will get you. And then 6 levels of Barbarian. Obviously, we go into Barbarian Rage. This is his Berserker. Unarmored Defense gives him some additional armor class without having to actually wear armor. Danger Sense gives you get the uncanny sense of when things nearby aren't as they should be, giving you an edge when you dodge away from danger. So you have an advantage on dex saving throws against effects that you can see, such as traps and spells. And you can't be blinded, deafened, or incapacitated.
That's nice.
Yeah, literally spelling danger.
For him.
Then we get the 3rd level. We get to choose Primal Path. I also went Totem Warrior.
I just want to interject real quick, Jason. With a lenient DM, technically that means you can't be knocked unconscious either, because that is incapacitated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I like the wording on that.
Yes.
That's not bad.
Can't be blinded, deafened, or incapacitated. Yeah.
So you can't be restrained or knocked unconscious.
If you want to go pure, if you want to go pure raw on that, sure.
Oh, that's incredible. Very Wolverine.
If you have a rules lawyer in your party.
Oh, we all have one.
Lawyer.
It's me.
Primal Path, I also went Totem Warrior. The first totem spirit I gave him was the bear, which gives him resistance to all damage except psychic. And the 6th level gets a second aspect of the beast. We gave him wolf, which gives him the hunting sensibilities of a wolf. You can track other creatures while traveling at a fast pace, and you can move stealthily while traveling at a normal pace, which is great because roleplay wise, he does go rogue a lot. He'll basically just bounce from the party.
I almost built him as a rogue.
I started off by giving him at least one level of rogue.
I have another fun fact about him.
Ooh, please.
He got the nickname Wolverine while cage fighting for the way that he fought. That was a fun fact.
Indeed.
Nice.
Fun fact of the day. The more you know.
I learned so much about James the Wolverine Howlett, also known as Logan, literally yesterday.
The things I Googled weren't that informative. Google's a weird place to be sometimes.
I mostly looked for handsome pictures of Hugh Jackman.
I mean, if you're going to look up Wolverine and a couple of shirtless pictures of Hugh Jackman slip in there, I mean, it's not my fault.
Hey, Justin and I have met Hugh Jackman.
Don't tell me
Was he
that.
shirtless?
I was in the same room as him. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Was he shirtless?
Listen, just let us be cool for a second.
All right, well, then you haven't really met Hugh Jackman.
Was he delightful?
I heard he was nice. He talked to one of our coworkers at the bar. I don't know about you, Jason. I didn't talk to him.
Everything I heard about him was pleasant.
Yeah.
Seems like a real swell. I was Canadian, so.
Well, yeah. Is he?
No,
he's
not.
Australian.
I mean, like
Australian.
Wolverine's Canadian.
Oh, okay. No, Hugh Jackman's Australian.
Yeah.
I got really confused for a second. I was like, wait a minute.
Like, wait, that doesn't,
I mean, I can only think of
Pulling the Wolverine back into it.
That sounds plausible, but not right. Like,
I can only think of one person that hates Hugh Jackman, and it's Ryan Reynolds. Like,
yeah, he doesn't like him. He loves him.
Yeah, of course.
I was going to go with Dr. Cox and Scrubs.
Oh yeah, he disdains him as well.
I'm doing a Scrubs rewatch right now. Shout out to Fake Doctors, Real Friends. Excellent podcast. Abilities, I went with the straight up point buy, and I went pure min max on this. I went straight to strength 15, dex 15, con 15, and there's a kept intelligence, wisdom, and charisma at 8. Obviously, strength, dex, and con not only make him a better playable character, but are very canonical with him. In line with his character, intelligence and wisdom, and despite the fact that he has been alive for as long as he has, he's still pretty like headstrong when it comes to fighting and how to deal with problems. So he doesn't like he may be smart enough to know how to deal with them, but he's so like stubborn and headstrong that he'll just skip that part and just go right to acting before he thinks it out. So I thought
the other thing is he's an amnesiac, so he forgets all of that stuff.
Yeah. We forgot everything up to the Weapon X program.
Yes.
Since then, his memory's sharp. We'll get to that in a second.
Coming back.
Let's see. Description. We all know what he looks like. Now, the background here is where we got fun. And I don't have the Strahd book on my D&D Beyond, so I had to Google this one. In Strahd, there is a background called Dragon Casualty, which if we reskin just a couple of things in here, just change some names, we get some excellent Weapon X background. And Justin looks very confused because he's running Strahd right now.
I have been running Strahd for 4.5 months, and I have
the first
no idea
this?
what you're talking about.
Beautiful. So the Dragon Casualty
I'm very
background.
excited.
I'm just gonna read this verbatim. And by verbatim, it's gonna have a lot of Strahd stuff in it. So we'll go back and reskin a couple of these names.
Okay.
When the maimed Virulans descended upon Flan, you were one of the unfortunate casualties of war. Captured during the initial assault, you have spent the last year of your life as a plaything of a capricious and malevolent overlord. While many of your fellow prisoners fell to the dragon's insatiable fury over the coming months, you and your fellow survivors were spared only for a worse fate as one of the dragon's magical experiments, leaving you and those who survived the torture survived the torture scarred and disfigured. What reasons the dragon had for releasing you few survivors, nobody knows. You only fear that those who died under his terrible claw were the lucky ones, and you and your fellow dragon scarred are doomed for a fate worse than death. I'm kind of seeing this as the Weapon X program.
Jesus Christ.
With the main virulence.
Yeah.
And,
It works, yeah.
And what was the name of the dragon? It was here somewhere.
Steve.
Yeah, there's a dragon name in there somewhere. But I was going to change that to Striker.
Steve the Dragon.
This gives you proficiencies
William
in
Stryker.
Intimidation and Survival. It gives you tool proficiencies.
Is it called the maimed virulence?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I
I
found
thought
it.
that was kind of like his. Here it is. Vorganshirax.
I like
Forget-
Steve. I like Steve's better.
Vorganshirax, the main
Steve is
virulence.
much better.
Yeah, let's go with Steve.
Steve the Dragon.
Striker. He's it's definitely Striker.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
so
works
this-
way better.
So this gives you skill proficiencies in Intimidation and Survival.
Steve the Striker.
Tool proficiencies based on parts of your origin, which we'll get to the table in a second. Equipment gives you a dagger, tattered rags, loaf of moldy bread, a small cast-off scale belonging to Verganshirax. We'll skin that to something that he stole from a Striker, maybe a pen out of his pocket. I don't know. And your
Dog
lifestyle.
tags.
Yeah. Your own dog tags. That's actually the size of a scale. Your tool proficiency is based on your occupation before the capture. And we can kind of go with couple different options here. All of your options are either dock worker and fisherman, tradesperson and merchant, black fist soldier, an adventurer / visitor, entertainer, scholar, healer, criminal, or unskilled laborer. What's interesting here is that whether you go with the soldier or the unskilled laborer, whether you're taking his military background or his logging background, either way, your tool proficiency is a gaming set, which is at least a little interesting.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping, and it's
I think
not.
he could have picked any of those, honestly, from how long he's been alive.
I would not call him a scholar or an entertainer
Yeah, that's fair.
or a tradesperson
You could pick almost any of those.
or a fisherman. You can
If
really
you
only pick
watch
two
him
of these.
fight, technically he's an entertainer.
I guess. Yeah,
He's
fair.
fished.
He was in fighting pits.
Yeah, put a fucker in a fighting pit. I'd watch the shit out of that.
He gets a tool
Yeah.
proficiency in gaming set because of this. In the Outlander background that I was going to give him, I was going to give him a proficiency in loot because Josie, I don't know if you came across this in your research, but canonically, he's a bass player in a Toto cover band.
That's a canon thing.
I found it on Marvel Wiki. And that's good.
Yeah,
that's good
wikis
enough.
are known for their reliability.
Listen, that's good enough for
Listen,
me, all right?
I choose to
It's
believe
the wiki,
that.
though.
I
Bro.
choose to believe that.
I believe
What's
that.
that shit?
Yeah,
Jack,
I believe
what's-
that about
Jack,
as
what's
much.
more
I
fun?
wanna
What's
hear
more
it.
fun? Believing that he's a bass player in a Toto cover band or not believing he's a bass player in a Toto cover band?
That's a really fair point.
Okay.
I'd rather think that he was out there
I'm going to go with the
jamming
rule
in
of cool.
Africa.
We're going to go with the
I
rule of cool
want-
here and say that as far as this podcast is concerned, Wolverine is canonically a bass player in a Toto cover band.
That's
Jack
such
just
an
give
odd
him
thing.
a-
Jack just fucking left the table.
I did leave the table. I still got my headset on, but I couldn't be around people who believe such a thing.
Jack's like, fuck this shit.
Bass player in a Toto cover, man. Like, I'm out, dude.
And
This
then
show's
instant proficiency.
Um,
I'm going to make an insight check on that.
you can just say you're going to
Could be
Google it.
history.
Like you're allowed to just say you're going to Google things.
Yeah, it's a history check.
Some other really cool things with the Dragon Casualty background. So you do get a disfigurement, and obviously you can roll for these things, but there is an option for elongated claw-like hands, so we can give him his claws straight up. Even the suggested characteristics, some of these are great. Driven to escape my past, slow to trust. His ideals, I put him as a chaotic good because I can see him as a chaotic neutral also, but he really does more often than not have good in his heart and is really just trying to be, what he thinks is right. But, obviously chaotic. The chaotic ideal here is when I'm in trouble, the only person I can rely on is myself. And then the flaws, which one did I have here? It was, once I make up my mind, I follow the chosen course of action regardless of consequences. He goes rogue all the time. Sometimes it works.
Yeah, that's his thing.
Yep, absolutely. And the last real thing
It always
here is
works because he never dies.
Yeah. He's the only one who can do that. And the last thing here is the equipment. And the only thing that really matters here and the only real homebrew reskinning that we need to do is his melee weapons that he gets as a fighter. I gave him scimitars that I would ask the DM very nicely if we can reskin into his claws. Scimitar stats.
It's a D6. That seems fair.
Yep, D6
Yeah,
plus.
it's not a very high weapon or high damage weapon.
D6 plus strength, but it is slashing, which was pretty important.
He slashes sometimes.
I feel like anything like short sword, scimitar, any of those weapons you can kind of throw into claws.
Short swords are piercing. It's the same stats, just piercing versus slashing. But with the with the slasher feat that he got from being a variant human, it was important that he got a slashing weapon. If we want to actually homebrew this a little bit, we can do something like, have them built into him. I thought maybe give it, make it require maybe a bonus action to engage or disengage. The trade-off is that they can't be dropped.
Yeah, you can't really drop your own claws.
Yeah, you can't be dropped, can't be stolen. But I would say require require a bonus action to engage or disengage, and obviously they lose the throwable property. I think is pretty fair, and I don't think any DM would say no to that. But yeah, that's my Logan.
I like that build like a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
I think it's a very playable build.
I think we've all made them pretty playable so far. I think we all kind of focused. I think the main thing I've seen so far before we get to yours down there.
I can't wait for this one.
Is that we all kind of said like, okay, how do we make claws a viable, like what do we kind of change a little bit up to make it a viable thing? Because I mean, Wolverine, at the heart of Wolverine is the claws. I mean, so like you got to pull something from the universe to kind of, give him a slight advantage, like you did. Like I like the thing of, if you're going to do adamantium, having a weapon kind of thrown into claws and taking away like the, thrown and stuff like that. But I feel like maybe making like an action or like a free action to like retract or like push him out would be like a cool feature too. So it takes a little bit of time
bonus
to like,
action.
Yeah, like they're usually instantaneous, but I feel like just from a D&D standpoint, instantaneous is almost a little overpowered. Like you should have to use a bonus action to like throw him out there and start fighting.
I mean, an entire round lasts 6 seconds, no matter how many people are in it. So,
so it's
gonna take a bonus action at least.
Yeah, but even then,
I like that
like
build,
6 seconds is about 12 times the amount of time it takes for him to actually engage his claws.
Yeah, I liked a little bit of a different backstory too. Like you kind of went like a little off with it. Like I enjoyed how that worked out.
Yeah, I was just digging through interesting backgrounds, and this was perfect.
I think the Dragon Casualty works. I would be remiss if I did not point out that is Adventurers League content and not official Curse of Strahd Wizards of the Coast material.
Oh,
that's just the only reason I was confused, because I've been running that campaign for 4.5 months. I've read that book cover to cover, and the only background that comes with it is Haunted One. There is a PDF that has 6 additional backgrounds that are able to be used in tournament play, if you're running Curse of Strahd. But
okay,
yeah.
Nerd. Oh, boy. All right. The season allergies are really acting up on me right now.
Oh, do you need
Jeez
to
Louise.
Hey, man.
like I said, I don't have the Strahd stuff on D&D Beyond here, so I just had to rely on Googling and
I feel
following that chain.
Yeah,
Grog said it. It was my cat. It wasn't definitely wasn't me.
Yeah, he's allergic to himself.
Yeah. It's just a weird thing,
Sometimes it be like that. A little cat dander gets in your nose, you gotta sneeze. You gotta cough. Little column A, little column B.
Dickhead.
You don't have any pets. You can't get away with it.
No, I don't, because it's for one of 2 reasons. Either one you can pick. Either I'm a sociopath or I don't have the money to support an animal.
Well, I'm a sociopath, and here he is.
Oh.
Cats are sociopaths.
Yeah, that's why we get along so well. I will say right now, I've loved all the builds so far. I'm very intrigued in how you made your build.
Yeah.
Just
what do you got?
So what I did,
what'd you do?
I went in a very opposite direction here, and I decided not to make a faithful adaptation of Wolverine, but
I decided not to make Wolverine,
but to reimagine what Wolverine would be.
Here's
like.
my character from the other campaign. I just called him Wolverine.
I changed his name.
We made him a female half-elf.
I took it in a different direction, as in, like, what would Wolverine be like had he been born in the Forgotten Realms as opposed to in the Marvel Universe? Because they don't have Weapon X or Adamantium or shit like that in Forgotten Realms. So I wanted to make him an actual piece of a setting. So I came up with a hill dwarf named Logir, who is a warlock whose patron is the Undying. So I was running through on my dndbeyond.com character sheet. He's level 10, has HP of 101, which we'll get to with his stats. I wanted to make a really con-heavy warlock to accommodate, Wolverine's toughness and healing ability, and to account for the fact that he doesn't have proficiency with anything beyond light armor. So stats, strength 18, dex 14, con 19, intelligence 8 to take the -1. But his wisdom and charisma are both at 17, which I did because while he may not be the most traditionally wisest person, Wolverine is extremely perceptive, can be insightful, is extremely adept at survival, which are all wisdom traits. And, even though he's not warm and cuddly and fun to be around, charisma can manifest in several different ways. And also it's a warlock, so he needs to have high charisma to be even remotely playable. Has advantage on saving throws against poison and disease as a dwarf trait.
So far, so good.
Skill proficiencies in athletics, intimidation, perception, and nature. Just from I figured as somebody that lived in the wild so far, I honestly didn't even think to take survival because, as Jason said earlier, I think it's a rather useless skill in most 5e campaigns.
What do people use survival for in 5e campaigns, really?
Finding food, exploring in wilderness, and finding like shelter and fresh
survival
water.
could just be called hunting almost at that point. That's really what anyone ever uses it for.
Yeah. It was broken down into a few different things back in 3 and 3.5.
It's your camping skill. That's really what it is.
Wolverine is very good at camping.
He's a very adept camper for sure.
He's so good at it, he don't even need no tent.
All right. So for his background, at first I thought about having him as the haunted one, just like everybody else did, because
it fits like a cookie cutter fit, but in a good way. Not like, oh, it's campy, but it just, you read that and you're like, oh, that's Wolverine. That's Wolverine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I was like, nah. So at first I had him as
I found this absolutely perfect thing. So I said no.
I want it.
Fuck it. So at first I had him as the Far Traveler background, which is something from the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, which I thought was fitting with his amnesia angle, like finding himself in an alien land almost without any memory of, how he got there. And a lot of it is tied to like, oh, I left my home, but he doesn't remember what it is. So his personality traits, sarcasm and insults are my weapons of choice. Wolverine.
Yep.
I express affection or contempt in ways that are unfamiliar to others. Wolverine. For his ideal, I must be careful, for I have no way of telling friend from foe here. Wolverine. His bond is my freedom is my most precious possession. I'll never let anyone take it from me again. Basic roleplay shit. And then flaws, I pretend not to understand the local language in order to avoid interactions I would rather not have, which is not something that I think is specifically him, but I remember the scene from First Class where Xavier and Magneto go to recruit Logan in the bar, and he just responds with, go fuck yourself.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Which I thought that flaw summed up pretty well.
Which, by the way, so in a PG-13 movie, you're allowed to say the F word once.
Yep, that's
it. And it cannot be a verb. It has to be an exclamation or an adjective.
I mean, technically, that
is a verb.
Honestly, if you tell someone to go fuck themselves, you have to. What is the action they're doing? That's a verb.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a verb.
It can't be an overtly sexual verb. You can't say like, "Hey, you want to?
I want some fuck.
Give me some fuck."
Yes,
daddy.
Would you like some making fuck?
Mm-hmm.
I guess go fuck yourself is okay because that movie is still PG-13.
Got real racy, real quick.
Yeah, but yeah, anytime a PG-13 movie actually makes great use of their one fuck is like my favorite thing in the world. Please go.
Well, that was what the joke with Deadpool was. Like, how are they going to use it if they make it PG-13 with all the fourth wall stuff?
But yeah, anyway, that's why I did that. And just over to class features. As the Warlock at first level, his otherworldly patron is the Undying, which at first level has him learn the Spare the Dying cantrip, which, you can touch someone that's unconscious on death saves and have them pop up with 1 hit point. That's not super applicable at first level, but it becomes applicable with another class feature coming post haste. Let me get to the easier way to read this real quick. Pack Magic, traditionally, he's not a big spellcaster, but I came up with a method for him to use those 2 spell slots that we will get to when we talk about combat. For Eldritch Invocations, he has 5. Thirsting Blade, which allows him to attack with his packed weapon twice instead of once. Fiendish Vigor, he can cast False Life on himself and grant temporary hit points, adding to the Constitution. Improved Pack Weapon adds +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls on his packed weapon. Devil's Sight, he can see normally in darkness up to 120 feet, advancing his dark vision, something I think Wolverine would have. And then Eldritch Smite, which once per turn, he can expend a spell slot to deal an extra 1d8 force damage to the target, plus another 1d8 per level of the spell slot. At 10th level, your spell slots are 5, 5th level, so that's an extra 6d8 he can lay down for 1 spell slot with a hit.
Wow.
Balanced.
It's not homebrew. Pact Boon, 3rd level, Pact of the Blade. So he has his packed weapon that I did not manifest as claws. Like I said, I'm reimagining him in this world. So he summons a packed longsword, seemingly out of nowhere, similar to Wolverine's claws. And then for combat, I had him take the spell Shadow Blade for his offhand, because at 10th level right now, that also lays down like another 5d8 damage. So it's turning him into a berserker, without having to rage
be a berserker.
Be a barbarian at all. I just thought it was an interesting way to, start building a warlock that doesn't actually cast any of their spells besides like summoning a weapon.
That's really awesome, actually.
Yeah. 4th level, I took a feat, Fighting Initiate, to grant him the 2-weapon fighting style.
Mm-hmm.
So he can add his ability modifier, damage on his offhand. 5th level, he can attack twice. 6th level, Defy Death. This is where we start to get into the fun Wolverine stuff. Starting at 6th level, he can give himself vitality when he cheats death or when he helps someone else cheat it. He regains hit points equal to 1d8 plus his Constitution modifier, which is +4. When he succeeds on a death saving throw or when he stabilizes a creature with Spare the Dying. So that's how I decided to adapt his regeneration in the long run, along with the Dwarven Constitution like trait from being a dwarf, where it just adds extra HP every time you level. You can use that once and before a long rest. 8th level ability score improvement. I upped his strength by 2, up to 18, so he can kill people better. And then at 10th level with the Undying Nature trait, which is why I had him to 10, because this is what I think makes him Wolverine in this world. He can hold his breath indefinitely. He doesn't require food, water, or sleep. And in addition, he ages at a slower rate for every 10 years that pass. He only ages 1 year, and he is immune to being magically aged.
Damn. I didn't know Wolverine was a warlock. But now I can't see him as anything
like
else.
that, I know.
Holy shit.
I thought that could be close. I was between this and like Hexblade, but I didn't think the curses really, applied to Wolverine too much. But yeah, the Undying, I think by 20th level, he just basically becomes ageless and
can't die.
and just lays down massive amounts of hurt. Like
He almost becomes One Punch Man.
Yeah, I mean, that's the logical end result of all D&D characters, I think, is anime protagonists. But
yeah, pretty much. We should do a Saitama challenge. Try to make One Punch Man without taking a single level of monk.
Pass.
All right, maybe let's not do that.
I would think just Berserker Barbarian, because at like 18th level, your strength goes up to 24.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so you just punch the hell out of everything.
Okay, fine.
Or just any class with a belt
we'll
of
find
fire
something
giant,
more interesting.
25 strength.
I like that Warlock build, though. I think it's a neat thing. Like, okay, what if he wasn't Wolverine in like our universe? Like, what if he was Wolverine in the D&D campaign?
Yeah, so he's just a tiny little dwarf that looks exactly like Hugh Jackman, except he's only like 4'5". Just coming at you with
exactly like Hugh Jackman.
Just coming at you with ethereal swords that between the 2 attacks and the Shadow Blade, I think it's something like 15 or 16 D8. If he blows like all the spell slots on that one round.
Yeah, but you pretty much burn like everything if you use that, though.
He only has 2 spell slots, so yeah, it's the first turn he uses the action to summon the longsword.
You do it on mini bosses when you know you're about to rest.
Yeah.
So
I use this, now what?
So on your second turn, you blow your last spell slot to just fucking
Annihilate
murder
him.
whatever you're attacking.
You know, your D&D night runs from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and it's like 9:45. Go
You're
ahead
like,
and
all
roll
right,
your spell slot.
it's time.
I'm going to use my Shadow Blade, and I'm going to attack twice with my packed weapon and once with my Shadow Blade. Oh, crits! Yay!
What's
And
cool
it's
is like
gone.
it's tangentially a Wolverine build.
Yeah.
Where like if you take the time to like tell them it's like, yeah, this is based on Wolverine, but like in like this kind of universe, it makes sense. While still being like what sounds like a really fun character to play.
Yeah, I would enjoy playing. I'm probably going to use
anytime
that
you're
as a
about to be like,
DMPC at some point.
anytime you're about to be like, okay, roll for this. Okay, it hits. Cool. Let me just roll up damage. And it sounds like this.
Yeah, well, that's me and my
Yeah.
level 9 rogue too, like with sneak attack. Just like, okay. Especially on a crit when you double it.
Can I
Just-
borrow someone's dice?
I only brought 30.
Guys, I only have like
20 D8s. I need more.
Just the dread of hearing that, and the attack is against you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hearing a whole bunch of dice roll like from behind the DM screen is like, uh-oh.
Oh, I hate that.
That's
My
my
blood
favorite
is
thing in
cold.
the world to do to my players.
Campaign that Jack was running for us. He's like, it's like, right, roll a stealth check. It's like, it's only like a 6. Okay, hang on. Roll.
And you're like,
Like,
ah.
Yeah.
shit.
Clack, clack.
There was a lot of things. I actually, speaking of just pulling from that campaign, I almost made sort of like a monster character version of Wolverine. So I almost made him the what is it, the Draugr, like a Draugr zombie almost. So you're like a dwarf
Okay.
zombie kind of, and just try to roll that into a character because they can't, like, being able to, like, if you can saving throw, like, you just don't die.
Yeah, that's nice.
But
Right.
yeah, but then instead I went with half orc because vanilla.
Jason, I like that we kind of almost built the same character.
I mean, it was fitting. I mean, that's you picked a class and race that kind of just was Wolverine.
Yeah.
They could be
Yeah,
brothers.
no, that was very creative. That was awesome.
Now we got to
So
make
the-
them fight.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do some
Oh, I don't want to fight
PvP
that warlock.
episodes.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, I can't
Nah,
wait to fight that
I'm not touching
warlock.
it. You guys
I
do it.
can't wait to fight that thing. I don't care if I get obliterated. It's gonna be great. Gonna go out and blaze of glory.
So
Yeah, I didn't
whoever
even
he
get
takes
into his-
first is screwed, but
I
everyone
didn't
else will be
even know
fine.
other spells that he has.
All
I
right,
forgot. I also gave him Vampiric Touch to regenerate HP.
of course
which-
you did,
First healing factor.
because why not?
You just gotta knock him out and then run.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
you gotta hold
Wolverine's
creature.
not- he's not.
run
Wolverine's
away.
not the stick and run type though. That's bad roleplay. There's got to be a tactic in there somewhere.
Yeah, but dying as Wolverine's also bad roleplay.
Yeah, fair.
But wanting to die, that's good Wolverine roleplay.
Oh yeah,
Good.
yeah. Not caring about the danger and running into that battle face first. That's Wolverine roleplay.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite way to play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
just-
quite the unhinged PvP.
What do you
Look
mean
at battle.
check for traps? I'm not checking for traps.
Your mom checks your traps and boom, trap explodes. That's usually how it goes.
Yep. Yeah.
I
had
will,
that one
however, if there are 2 chests, you always throw a rock at them.
Mm-hmm. Just in case. Oh God, I don't know why I like just saying your mom checks for traps. Now I just want to roll like a frat boy rogue. Like your mom checked for traps, and just going in and doing stuff.
My God.
happen.
Oh my God. Let's roll up frat boys next time.
Let's do it. We'll roll some bros. We're
Roll
gonna
some
brainstorm
bros.
what to do next.
So they're all bards.
Yes. We've got a couple ideas what the next episode is going to be. We have to discuss offline what the next one is going to be. Did you guys make these all on D&D Beyond or something similar?
I did.
Josie,
Yeah.
do
I
you
made
have
mine
a
on D&D Beyond.
Josie, you have a
I
PDF
used
for this?
D&D Beyond.
Cool.
I
So,
do have a
guys, send me the
PDF for
PDFs. I'm going to put the PDFs of these characters in a Dropbox file, and we're going to put the link to that in the show notes and YouTube description for this podcast. So if you want to check out what our final builds look like, you can go ahead and download those PDFs right from here.
Nice.
That's all I got today. You guys, how you guys feeling? You learned a lot about Wolverine today? Or Josie last
learned
night
so
whenever
much
you
about
did all that
Wolverine.
research?
The most Wolverine.
I didn't think this was going to be a history podcast, so thank you, Josie.
Oh, if I'm involved, you're always going to get at least 20 minutes of backstory.
Beautiful, because I'm super
cannot
All I know is
escape
what
it.
Hugh Jackman looks like in 2021. I think he might be ageless. So
You're probably right.
Ah, he's
Him and
gorgeous.
Paul Rudd.
Oh yeah.
him and Paul, yeah, Keanu Reeves.
It's a cult.
So if you're listening and you have some ideas on not only other characters that we can try to build, but other episode themes that we can work on, go ahead and send your ideas. You can either leave them in the YouTube comments or you can email them to us at curmudgeonsanddragonspod@gmail.com. We'll check that. And that's pretty much all I got today. Guys, thanks for joining the roundtable.
It was a great time.
Yes. Auf Wiedersehen.
Adieu, friends.
Auf Wiedersehen.
All right, you guys are all out of initiative. You can go back to your normal role play that we called Life. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Later, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Our hosts are Jason Portizo, Justin Franco, Jack O'Connell, and Josie Diaz. Produced and edited by Jason Portizo. Theme music is Crunk Night by Kevin MacLeod. Link to the song and license information can be found in the podcast show notes and YouTube description. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave a rating. Curmudgeons and Dragons is a JTP audio production. Practice safe adventuring, and remember, don't trust the bard with a twinkle in his eye.
This has been a JTP Audio podcast. Thanks for listening.